my name is Faiza. I'm an intern in the Office of International Studies Abroad, and today we will be doing our first interview in our Stories from Abroad series, where we will be interviewing different students who have traveled to different countries all around the world with UST. Today we'll be interviewing Emily Jewett. So Emily, would you like to tell us a little bit about you, your name, major, and class?
Yeah, my name's Emily. I'm a senior English major with a concentration in creative writing and a minor in political science.
Cool. And which program did you do exactly?
So I went to Oxford and I did the St. Clare's Blackfriars dual enrollment program.
Okay. What do you think is specific about that program that is really unique compared to other programs we offer?
What was really unique is I actually got to technically study at two schools. So I took 3 classes at St. Clare's, which was like an international college that wasn't completely affiliated with like Oxford University. But I also got to take 2 classes at Blackfriars, which is one of the university, like smaller colleges within the broader Oxford University program, which was really cool. And as far as what was unique about this is my class sizes were tiny. Like one of my tutorials at Oxford, it was just me and the professor. One was with one other student studying literature of, it was 1910 to present, which was really cool. And then my classes at St. Clare's are really small too. My political science class was with one other student, and my other 2 English tutorials were just me and the professor. So it was a lot of one-on-one attention, which was awesome. And I also kind of got to shape like what we studied and what we talked about because it was just me and my interests. So that was awesome.
That sounds great. So what do you wish you knew before going abroad? Cool.
Okay, so as far as generally, I packed way too much. I packed clothes I never needed. I brought like books with me because for some reason I had this fantasy that I was going to have free time to read. I didn't. And I also bought a lot of books while I was abroad, just like going to different bookstores. And so my suitcase coming back was overweight and I had to pay for that. So I would be careful about what you pack, leave room. People told me that. I was like, and I didn't listen, and I should have. And as far as about the Blackfriars St. Clare's program specifically, you're going to be writing a lot, so just be prepared for that. It was a little bit of a hard adjustment being in 2 schools at once, but like once I adjusted to it, it was fine. I just wasn't sure how much I was going to be writing, but I was writing like 3 essays a week, so it was a lot. But as long as you know that going in, you'll be good.
Great. And speaking of essays, which class did you take that was your favorite, and how is taking classes at St. Clare's and Blackfriars different than taking classes at USD?
Okay, my favorite was Gothic fiction with my favorite professor, Ed. Ed, I love him. I honestly don't remember his last name right now
It's
because
Clark.
it was Clark. Okay, I was like, I don't want to be wrong. Yeah, so my favorite was Gothic fiction with Ed Clark. We like Gothic fiction is already one of my favorite genres, and it was a really interesting class because it was just him and I, and so I kind of got to shape the discussions, kind of push my own due dates on when I wanted papers to be due. We got to like watch different movies, discuss different aspects of the Gothic novel, and that had a little bit of overlap with my English literature from 1830 to 1910 course at Blackfriars, which was nice and convenient because then I got to discuss different texts and get 2 different perspectives from 2 professors. And the way that it's different from USD is it's a lot more reading because you only meet at Blackfriars once a week. So every week you'll have read a book and you'll have composed an essay for each tutorial. So that was 2 books, 2 essays a week for me. And so it's just like a little more fast paced, but you meet with your professors less. So it's a lot more self-taught, which definitely prepared me because right now I'm working on my thesis. So a lot of that is teaching myself. So this was a good preparation for that. And the classes are also just smaller. It's more discussion. You have to participate more, especially if you're like me and you're the only person in your class. You kind of can't just sit there. Like you have to be engaged in discussion instead of just lecture. And I found that really beneficial to my academic journey.
Okay. Obviously, that seems like it was challenging throughout the process, but would you want to tell me about a challenge you encountered that you didn't expect and how you handled it, whether that's class related or culture related?
One thing I didn't anticipate was kind of how homesick I would get, honestly, because England reminded me a lot of Oregon, which is where I'm from. And so then when it was like getting towards Christmas time, I was like feeling sad because I'm like, because we were there until December 14th or something like that. So it was coming down to it. And like, I didn't get to have Thanksgiving, which was really weird. Like, I just kind of felt like the holiday culture was very different. Christmas came a lot faster because there was no Thanksgiving to like stave it off after Halloween. And so I would just be prepared for that. Like, if you go in the fall, there is going to be like some weird homesickness around Thanksgiving, but call your parents, go out to eat with your friends, and you'll power through it.
That sounds great. That's wonderful advice. Thank you. How would you actually explain the culture in Oxford? How do you feel it's different from the culture in San Diego or America in general?
It's like very different. Like, I feel like people are like honestly friendlier. I don't know why that is. People would like strike up conversations with me. There was just like, it was very community based. Like, you would go to your local grocery store all the time, you would talk to people, and people were just friendly. And your professors, I feel like you got to know them more, like than you do here necessarily, depending on your classes. And yeah, things were just different, but not completely different. Like, I wasn't culture shocked in any way. I kind of knew what to expect and anticipate. Something that really struck me was like the style of British humor. Like, I get it, but like I don't joke that way. So like I would make jokes like to my professors and they would just kind of look at me like, or if I had like they're very emotionally stifled. Like, if I had an emotional reaction to a text and I'd be like, oh my God, this made me cry, they'd kind of be like, oh, okay. Like, I remember in my literature of World War I class, Ed Clark made me watch a documentary on the Battle of the Somme, which was like a horrific battle where so many young men died. And like he turned it off and there were just like tears on my face and he did not know what to do. Like, he was like, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have watched that. I'm like, no, it's fine. It was just, very heartbreaking. Did not know how to handle the crying. It was very funny to me.
That is very entertaining. Ed Clark's Yeah, that's great.
Not prepared.
What is one important lesson that you took home with you?
I think I learned a lot about myself and independence and like kind of forming my own personal identity because I went abroad knowing no one. I didn't even know if anyone else from USD was going to be there. And so it was kind of scary. I remember I got there the first night. I arrived like a night early just because that's the way the flights worked out. So I just stayed in like a hotel room by myself. And I was like watching a movie, like eating Nando's in bed, trying to force myself to stay awake so I could get adjusted to the time difference. And I was like, I'm alone. And for the first time, like in my life, that didn't scare me. Like, I was excited, and I was excited to kind of start over in this new place and like make friends that are like specific to Oxford. And like, I had that opportunity to like meet people and make friends who went to USD and then people from like scattered all around Europe. And so I kind of learned a little bit more about who I am and about how I handle challenges on my own without necessarily the same support system I have in the US.
And I know you mentioned earlier that you had to cope with some homesickness.
Yes.
What was your best way of like getting out of that funk?
I would actually FaceTime my sister when the time differences lined up, and I would ask to talk to my 4-year-old niece because, yeah, no, I love her so much. And it just brings so much joy to like talk to a little kid because they just talk about the most random stuff. She'd be like, I'm watching a movie. Let me tell you about it. And I'm like, I know, we've watched that movie together many times. And she's like, no, I'm going to tell you about it. And I'm like, all right. And so just calling home like every 4 days or so was kind of nice, and just like kind of keeping in touch via FaceTime. We're very blessed to live in this age of like technology where we can like see each other's faces. Like, I didn't have to like write letters and like hope for a response in 3 weeks. So staying in touch with people at home just kind of helped me battle off homesickness, and also like spending time with my friends or like doing things that made me happy, like going and getting like a coffee from my favorite coffee shop, or going for like a walk around downtown Oxford and looking at the architecture, or going to like the botanic garden. Like, anything that would bring me joy, I would try to do when I found myself getting down.
Those are really great ways of coping because it doesn't only further immerse you in the culture, but you still get to stay connected to home and you're FaceTiming and doing things like that. Great. Thank you so much for answering all the questions I asked you and just being very honest throughout the whole process. Studying abroad is definitely something that isn't the easiest thing to do, but it's completely enlightening.
So worth it though. It's worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining us for this short interview with Emily Jewett. We look forward to seeing you guys in the future in the office, and we appreciate your time. Bye.
Bye.